With the pandemic and the growth of disc golf in our area, tournaments are selling out in like seconds.
Aloha all, and welcome to the Empowered Podcast, Why Disc Golf. Today we have Catalyst Alyssa with us to discuss why she continues to play disc golf and go into how the pandemic has affected her disc golf season this year. Now let's go ahead and get started. Alyssa, welcome.
Hi.
Tell us why disc golf? What keeps you coming back to the sport?
Man, if there's not one single thing that I could choose. We just finished Women's Global last weekend, and I think that in itself sums up why disc golf for me. The community in general is just fantastic, but the women's community is just like out of this world. Women's Global is the reason that I am so passionate about disc golf right now. It was my first event in 2018. And before then, I had mainly just played with my husband and a local guys group here. And when I signed up for Women's Global and went and played that event, I was just like, oh my gosh, look at all these ladies out here playing disc golf. And I think in 2018, maybe we had, I don't know, 40 or 50. And this year we sold out. So we had 72 women at the event that I played. And there were 3 women's globals like within driving distance of where I live, whereas in 2018 there was only 1. So that for me just shows like how much the sport has grown, but in particular for women and juniors. There were 3 juniors at the event that I played, and then one of the other clubs that I play with in Southern Illinois had a junior as well. So just the camaraderie. I mean, the ladies are fantastic, so supportive of each other. And it's just so much fun.
Agreed. And I cannot believe you had like 3 different women's global events to choose from. That
Yeah.
is amazing goals, right?
Yeah. I mean, it was fantastic. The sport here for women is really starting to explode. You have a lot of women that are stepping up to encourage new players to come out and just be growing the sport for women. It's really awesome.
Yes, I agree. And I know that you have been involved a bit in the growth of women's disc golf in your area. Tell us about what you've got going on.
Okay, so just kind of, again, taking it back to 2018, when I first started playing, like I said, there wasn't a lot of women's clubs around. Down south in Illinois, there's the Birdie Babes, and they've got a pretty big following, and they put on a tournament every year. But that's like an hour and a half for me. So it's kind of a drive just to go play a casual round. And then up in Wisconsin, Milwaukee area, Madison area, you have the Dolls by Jenny Sanfilippo. And I love playing with them as well. But again, that's like 2 hours from where I live. And that's kind of a drive for just a casual round. And so before the pandemic hit, we had a putting league at a local brewery, and it was me and 2 other girls with like a sea of guys. And we just started talking about it, and we just started talking about how we needed something like in our area that was between Milwaukee and Southern Illinois, because we knew there were other ladies out there playing. We would see them on the course with their boyfriends or their husbands. So it was just a matter of trying to get it together. And right when we were going to go live with it, the pandemic hit and everything shut down. So we kind of lost some momentum with that. And then, with the pandemic, disc golf just exploded. And so we were seeing so many women, even more than we were before, out on the course. And in January, I reached out to the other 2. One of them has since moved to Michigan, so she helps remotely, but the other one is still here helping me run it. And I reached out to them and I was like, listen, we just have to pull the trigger and get going, because now is the time. There's so many women out there, and now is the time. And so we kind of just like, I've never run a ladies league before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. I am taking bits and pieces from the Dolls and from the Birdie Babes, and then, from the men's clubs that are in my area as well. And we kind of just put like a rough draft schedule out there, created a Facebook page, and we were like, come play, it's free, no experience, all age levels. And the first week, I think we had 8 or 9 ladies show up. And the second week we had 10 and a junior. And it's kind of just like started snowballing. And so now we're working with the Birdie Babes in Southern Illinois. And the week before Women's Global, we had the 2 clubs come together to practice for Women's Global. And we had 30 women show up and 1 junior, I think, that time. And it was just like amazing. And you could just feel the spirit, and all the ladies were like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. We've never seen this many women at a league. It's usually a tournament. So now we're working on making that collaboration like a once a month thing. It's kind of hard to do because we're right in the middle of tournament season here in Illinois. Tournament season starts in March and it goes through like October, right before the snow hits. So every weekend, if you're a competitive disc golfer, you're competing. So that's one of the struggles that we're running into right now, is a lot of us are competing, but we're still trying to make it work. I'm fortunate that I have somebody who can step up to run when I'm competing, but I imagine within the next 2 years, we'll have a consistent turnout of 20 to 30 women every time.
Yes, wow, the impact that the pandemic has had on disc golf, both negative, but also very positive. Like you were mentioning, the sport has exploded. There are a lot more people playing, ultimate players converting over to disc golf as well. And the growth and the potential for women to get involved is there. So kudos to you guys putting in the effort to grow something in your area. That's amazing. Have you guys had to take any extra precautions due to the pandemic when hosting league?
When we first started, we were pretty cautious. We make sure that we post on our website that COVID restrictions are in place, social distancing, hand sanitizer, and masks. But mainly we're following the CDC guidelines. And so right now the CDC guidelines in our area, you can have gatherings less than like 20 people. You don't have to wear masks if you're outside. So it hasn't really affected us too much in that sense. In our area, things are pretty much, I don't want to say back to normal. I don't know that there's ever going to be the normal that we used to have before the pandemic, but things are opening up. People are going out. High vaccination rate, low case rate here. So it hasn't affected it too much.
Right. And it's great that disc golf is an outdoor sport, non-person contact. So it's already kind of a sport set up for a pandemic almost, for you to be able to go out safely, still get exercise, be active without having too much interaction with other people.
Exactly.
Well, that is pretty exciting. And it's also pretty exciting to hear how many different leagues you have in your area that are able to come together. I could even foresee in the future having like league competitions and things like that, which is so much fun. I want to visit.
Totally.
Just to participate.
Totally. So there's this thing out here. It's called the Club Challenge, and it's all the local clubs. And it happens once a year in like April, and they take like the best representatives from each club, and there's a trophy, and the club gets to carry it until the next club challenge. And at Women's Global, we were actually talking, me and a couple of other girls who are not currently a part of my league, but who help with the Birdie Babes. And they were like, wouldn't it be amazing if we could do like a women's club challenge? So we're kind of like working on that. We are also talking about doing like an Illinois women's series. There's the Midwest series where there's women's stops all over the Midwest. But we have courses that are, all over Illinois that we felt like if we combined the Birdie Babes and the Ladies of the North, that we would really be able to put together, sorry, my dogs, hush. We would really be able to put together like a tour series with 4 or 5 ladies only tournaments just in Illinois, hoping that we could bring people from, Wisconsin, Indiana, Iowa, those kinds of places.
Yes, that sounds absolutely amazing. I'm already excited about it without it even being official yet. I can see it.
I mean, it
happening.
definitely is not going to happen this year, but we're hoping to get it on for 2022.
Heck yeah, the potential is definitely there. And I'm sure a lot of women would be so excited and interested in just that even different option. Like most
Totally.
women's, we're just right now even starting just with women's only tournaments. But yeah, there's the clubs and the teams and match play and doubles and all these different other
Yeah,
venues for women's disc golf to grow into. So that is
totally.
super cool. Now,
Totally.
moving on, for those of you who follow Alyssa on social media, which you should, she is an avid disc golf traveler. She attends several different tournaments throughout the season. And I know this season you are pretty booked, Alyssa, having almost a tournament, I believe, almost every weekend except for two. Tell us
Yeah.
about how that planning went through and how you're feeling about this season, especially with the pandemic going.
So with the pandemic and the growth of disc golf in our area, tournaments are selling out in like seconds. So we sat down before the beginning of the season and we have this big calendar in our sunroom, and it has every tournament for the entire season on it. And we sat down and we were like, okay, what are the must play tournaments? Where do we really want to go? What time can we take off of work? Because I still do work full time, so I have to balance my tournament season with my full time job. And we just set alarms in our phones, and it was like, okay, on this day, registration goes live for this, registration goes live for that. And before we knew it, I looked at my calendar and I was like, oh man, I'm competing. And you're right, it is every single weekend. I have a couple of B tiers and then a couple of A tiers that I'm playing as well. I'm playing Ledgestone this year. That's going to be my first time ever at Ledgestone, which is 4 hours from us in Peoria. I'm playing the Mad City Open in Madison, which is also another A tier, which is a huge one out here in the Midwest. So it's just kind of like been planning the way that my work schedule is so that I have Fridays and Mondays off, so that we can leave on like a Thursday afternoon to drive to wherever we need to be, and then play all weekend, drive home Sunday, and kind of recuperate on Monday.
Oh, that sounds amazing. The fact that you even have the ability to have a tournament every weekend. It's interesting to hear that they're selling out so quickly. It's not something that I had even considered as a thing. You're having to set your alarms to be on the dot registering for a
Mhm.
tournament. It sounds like
Yeah.
there needs to be a lot more tournaments.
I mean, and my husband and I were talking about that, but again, because our season is so truncated here, just due to the weather, there's only so many weekends in tournament season. And so it's just a matter of choosing the ones that you want to play, and how far are you willing to drive, and how much are you willing, to pay, because it can get kind of pricey, especially if you're playing in an A tier or a B tier, it can get kind of pricey. For me, though, personally, the price is worth it because I love competing. I feel like competing makes you a better player, and it's not necessarily about, the win or where you place. It's about you playing the course and playing against yourself. So I love tournament season. It's my favorite. I know I'm going to be exhausted by the end of tournament season, but I'm really looking forward to it. You meet so many great people, so many great women. I'm excited. I'm ready.
Oh, yes. And we are so excited to follow your journey. I know myself, I am also an experiential spender. So I'd rather spend money on an awesome experience like going on tour for a season. Now, let's talk about your feelings about touring and the pandemic. Are you concerned at all about traveling such a distance or being amongst other players? Or are you feeling like most tournaments are set up pretty well to kind of avoid any of those issues?
So I've only played 2 tournaments so far. No, 3 tournaments so far this season. And I feel like the TDs are pretty conscious about setting up to make sure that we're following CDC guidelines and keeping the players safe. Women's Global this year was the first tournament that I've been at since the pandemic where there were spectators and caddies were allowed, which was fantastic. I mean, it's really nice if you want to have a caddy with you, to be able to have that person with you. It's really nice to see people out on the course cheering you on as you come into the finishing hole. It's really nice to go to Tournament Central and be able to, be around a group of people versus having tee times, which is how it has been through the pandemic. I have not played an A tier or a B tier since the pandemic happened, so I'm a little bit anxious. Ledgestone is on the national tour, and from what I can tell, watching the Disc Golf Pro Tour, it seems like they handle everything pretty well. That being said, I am fully vaccinated, and so is my husband, so I'm not as nervous when it comes to those things, but obviously still taking precautions. I always have my hand sanitizer and my mask on me. Traveling doesn't really affect me. I mean, we've stayed in a couple of hotels, we've stayed in a couple of Airbnbs, and everywhere that we've stayed, they take precautions to make sure that you feel safe. So it doesn't really affect me too much.
Awesome. That is so good to hear. So women out there, if you're looking forward to traveling this season, especially for disc golf, I also encourage you to go out. This outdoor sport, most of the TDs do have those considerations in place when they're planning out their tournaments. And if you feel any level of concern, reach out to the TD, see what they're doing, what you might be able to do on your part so that you're feeling more safe. But it sounds like the season is really out in full speed, and we should all really be excited to go out and throw.
For sure. And in my experience, all of the TDs will post on event page or send out in the emails. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and then they'll list bullet point for bullet point what precautions they're taking, to follow CDC guidelines.
Yes, awesome. Now, where can we find you on social media, Alyssa, to follow all of your exciting disc golf adventures coming up here?
So I am on Instagram and Facebook. For Instagram, it's the Disc Golf Princess. Facebook is just me, Alyssa Livingston. You can also follow Ladies of the North, which is the Facebook page for our Ladies League, just to see what's up and kind of follow the progress of our newly formed league.
Wonderful. And those will be listed down below in the description so that you can make sure to click on all those links, follow Alyssa in the link to keep updated on her season this year. It's going to be an exciting one. Thank you again so much, Alyssa, for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Be sure to be a catalyst for change.